how about we turn things up a bit? And Clark, you touched on resilience, and I'd like to share something from another speaker who joined the summit, Yasuhiro Katira, and I just want to read this out, and then we can maybe discuss Ikigai and resilience. So he writes here, Ikigai fits with existential positive psychology. It is also regarded as the second wave of positive psychology that recognizes meaning in suffering and resilience, as well as being able to overcome challenges. And this is where Ikigai and resilience intersect. Resilience is one's ability to bounce back from difficulties. And those who live with Ikigai can find meaning in life's difficulties. Good mental health does not mean you are always happy. Rather, it means realizing that life comes with difficulties and being able to overcome them. So I'm going to put that in the chat so everyone can just read that again and maybe copy and paste it. I don't think this is often discussed. You know, most people have this perception that Ikigai is your bliss, and we all know the Venn diagram. And we've talked about small joys today and the importance of having things to look forward to, and now natsukashi and reflecting on what you have already and your, I guess, this collective, in a way, wisdom. And that's, if we're doing things, we should perhaps do them for the enjoyment of them and not have this sense of pressure of, oh, I've got to do my 10,000 steps today, rather than just going out for a nice walk, hopefully where you'll experience awe. But I think we need to touch on Ikigai and resilience. So I think, Trudy, you'd have a lot of experience with this, with your work with people who deal with illness, not just people going through cancer, but families who have to support their loved ones. And to get through it all, they must have resilience. So what are your thoughts on Ikigai and resilience?
I think Ikigai has a lot to offer. So when I think about Ikigai and illness, I think Ikigai really cultivates, or I promote, curiosity. So that Ikigai, if you cultivate a curious mind, so for instance, Ikigai does not create peace of mind, as far as I'm concerned. But if you can create a curious mind and a flexible mind, and a mind that will adapt itself to changing circumstances, then you've got something to work with when you're going through really difficult times. And so I love that, because Ikigai in illness is built completely on Morita principles. And I think that one of the aspects, one of the foundational elements of Ikigai in illness is that you challenge yourself mentally and physically. So you do hard things, even when they're hard, even when you're nervous about it. But there's big benefits. If it's why Dr. Itami had people climbing Mount Fuji and Mont Blanc, because he felt that when you challenged yourself mentally and physically, that you had much more inner resources and strength to fight the cancer, say. I don't really like the word fight, but to work with the cancer or your illness. So I think Ikigai is just a blessing in the whole area of resilience. It has so much to offer.
I'm sure you're going to talk about Dr. Itami in your presentation,
will.
so I won't ask questions. So we'll just make everyone watch that. But Clark, would you like to now chime in?
Yeah, I'm reminded of that, that saying, if I have a why, I can deal with any how. There was someone who was, and I forgive me for not remembering the person's name, but I know someone gave a presentation on logotherapy for the summit.
Dr. Nina, I think it was Dr. Nina Berkling.
Yeah. And I think, it really applies when we're thinking about Ikigai and resilience, in the sense that those who have a sense of Ikigai are going to be much more resilient than those who don't. And so for that reason, learning how to cultivate a sense of Ikigai is very important for flourishing. Yeah. I mean, I once had an exchange with, during COVID, I was a little concerned that we were constantly asking students how they were doing. And there was a lot of encouragement to ask students how they were doing. And I said, I'm not opposed to other people doing that, but I don't want to do that. And the reason why I don't want to do that is because if I keep asking them how they're doing, I'm afraid they're going to start thinking that there's something wrong with them. That they're going to start thinking like, why do you keep asking me that? Should I not be doing okay? And so the idea of making people feel resilient is the idea that, not just that they're okay, but like together, as a community in the classroom, at least together, we have something to do here. And, whatever's going on in the rest of our lives, we can take these moments and just deal with what life is calling us to do at that moment. And when we respond to what life is calling us to do at any particular moment, then we are living in a sense of purpose and ikigai, because we are responding to the next right thing to do, which is what life is calling us to do. And to my mind, my point was to my colleague, for me, that's how I prefer to think about making students more resilient, is by letting them know that we can be okay. We can just respond to what life is calling us to do. And when we do that, we'll be okay. And knowing that we're okay builds resilience.
I think from our conversation, the word cultivate came up in our podcast. And I think that's probably the best verb or not the best verb, but I really like that verb for ikigai, to cultivate one's ikigai, suggesting you already have it. Let's try and make the most of it and maximize it. And I guess that would help with resilience. So maybe towards the end of this discussion, we'll talk about cultivating our ikigai and we can offer some advice. But Shin, would you like to now chime in on ikigai and resilience?
Sure. I thought that was a brilliant passage by, I forgot who it was, but I thought it was a beautiful thing. And there's so much really essence of the ikigai captured here that really in relation to that existential positive psychology, it really, to me, what an ikigai is that it's not neither purely positive or negative, and then so is the life, right? And then that recognition and working between that. For example, one of my ikigai theories shows that, well, the perceived value of day-to-day experience really feeds into our ikigai perception of ikigai, feeling, your life is worth living. And one of the valuable experience that my students, the student I interviewed, kept talking to was in Japanese, we say ganbaru, that's making efforts, facing challenging experiencing situations. And from that, you may achieve something, or you may fail eventually, actually overall, but you grow as a person sometimes. So you take something out of it, that lessons too. And that effort for experience is really, it can be uncomfortable in a short term, that it can give you stress. It can give you short-term setbacks. It can frustrate you. And just be okay with that for a moment, and just stick to it too, and persist in that situation, and invest in that, and enjoy the growth through it. And that was recognized as one of those beneficial experience. So really, if you look at it in a short term, it can be stressful, it can be quote unquote negative, and so that. But in the long run, resilience suggests that you can grow, you can bounce back and bounce forward, if you will, and you can come out as a little stronger version of yourself. And that's very important. And this really also goes back to the I was thinking about something else and I lost track of thoughts, so I'm going to stop talking. Thanks.